episode of Surviving the Survivor, we bring you the best guests in all of true crime. Don't forget to subscribe and smash that like button. Here's your host, Emmy Award-winning broadcaster, Joel Waldman.
What's up, STS Nation, and welcome to another episode of Surviving the Survivor, the podcast that promises to bring you the very best guests in all of true crime. It is not hyperbole. It is not a tagline. It is our reality. You will not find two finer guests than this anywhere in the world, especially when it comes to dissecting police interviews, which we are going to do today. Off the top, I want to say a couple of very quick things. Number one, I love Uncle Phil. Number two, Uncle Phil just got in from a long flight. He'll share it with you if he wants to. Exciting moment in history for him this weekend coming up. Number three, I want a heartfelt condolences to all the families affected by Hurricane Helene. The number is well over 20 dead now. It was a horrific storm that plowed into the Big Bend area of Florida and is headed north. So I talked to Tim Jansen, Jared Ross. They all seem to be doing well. Tallahassee, I think, was spared from a lot of it. Yours truly, this is sort of, I've done a lot of media for the book, a lot of national stuff, but this tonight is a dream come true for me. At 1 a.m. Eastern time, I will be on Coast to Coast AM for 2 hours. It is the world's most listened to overnight radio program, once hosted by Art Bell.
I was going to say, that sounds familiar.
Art Bell, yeah, once hosted by Art Bell.
Remote viewing. It's all wild stuff. We're talking true crime tonight and a little bit of calm. So please join us. You can find, it's called Coast to Coast AM. It is on 650 radio stations worldwide, and it streams on the internet. So I better not screw up because they've got like 15 million listeners a night. The pressure is on. All right. So got Fil and Scott here looking dapper. We're going to dive right into this instead of nonsense as per usual Fridays, because Scott Duffy and Fil both have to jump around 4:15, 4:20. So another huge shout out to Hidden True Crime. Rising Tide Lifts All Ships. They helped us get some of this interview video, and I'm going to just start to play it. I haven't really figured out how to do this with Fil and or Scott. Fil, as you guys know, is literally, he teaches this around the world. He is the best in the business when it comes to interviewing potential suspects and actual suspects. So without further ado, let's dive into it. And Fil, do you care to tell people what you're up to this weekend, or is that top secret? I don't know. Sure. I am at the Hard Rock Hotel and Casino in the middle of the Cherokee Nation in Tulsa, Oklahoma, and I am celebrating my 50th high school reunion at Nathan Hale High School in Tulsa, Oklahoma. Tulsa Hale. So we've managed to put together. Actually, the gal that's kind of put this thing together, Becky White, done a remarkable job with the people that have helped her and assisted her. And we've got a pretty good gathering. We had 832 people in our graduating class, and I think we've got almost 300 that are going to show up over 2 nights. So that's pretty good turnout for 50 years. And so you only get one bite at this apple. So we flew in from Kona and really had great flights coming in. So it's been and it's beautiful weather here. It's really a good, it's going to be a good weekend. So yeah, I'm going to enjoy it.
That's amazing. Enjoy it. And Scott asked the $64,000 question: are any teachers alive 50 years later? Fil will let us know, I guess.
Yeah, I mean, I there may be some, but they're probably on the edge, right? So
yeah.
Yeah.
By the way, that's a cautionary tale. Life goes quickly. One day you're Fil's biology teacher. The next day it's your 50th anniversary. Fil's 50th anniversary. Goes quick. Enjoy the ride.
It
Never
does.
know when it's going to end. How's that? Okay, so we're going to dive into this. Scott Duffy, you need to say a word, please. Otherwise, I will get destroyed. How's your week been, Scott Duffy?
No, good week. Good week. Appreciate it. Anybody that's at the Tulsa hotel, Phil, give your room number and maybe somebody will come up and knock on your door and say hi. How about that?
Yeah.
Well, I might meet him in the casino. I don't know about bringing him to the wound. I do have my awesomely better half with me, so I'm not going to put her through that.
Now, she did not go to high school with you, right? She's not a high school.
No. She went to high school in Louisiana. Graduated from Shreveport at Bird High School.
Louisiana Lightning. Hello, Mrs. Waters. That's how I will refer to her. Hi. Okay. Sorry, we're bugging your wife, but here we go. So this is Stephan Sterns. By the way, again, Hidden True Crime. They have the full breakdown of this. The COE is going to put the link to their stuff in our show summary. By the way, you may notice camera 1 at Global Headquarters is now working. I can assure you no one did anything. I just plugged it in today and it happens to be working. So if I go dark at some point, I'll try to flip over to the other camera. With that said, this is Stephan Sterns. Phil, if you see something, I'm going to play it. I don't even know how long this is, maybe 3-4 minutes per clip. Jenn Soto, the mother, is 4 minutes. By the way, for those who do not know, Madeline Soto was first reported missing on February 26th. She did not arrive to school that day. Very sadly, 4 days later, March 1st, her body is found in rural Osceola County. 2 months later, Maddie Soto's mother's boyfriend, a guy named Stephan Sterns, arrested, charged with first-degree murder. This case carries a possible capital death penalty. And investigators say that the teenager was likely dead before the school bell rang that day. There were reports, really disturbing, that he was driving around with her. She was no longer alive. And that is about as disturbing as it gets. So without further ado, this is police interviewing Stephan Sterns. This is a treat, everybody. Kick back. You got Phil Waters here, the world expert, and Scott Duffy ain't too shabby himself.
No, I was not. I was on my way up at that point.
Okay. So the party ends. Did you pick them up from the party?
Someone must have dropped her off.
Okay.
She was there when I got there. Jen asked me to make sure that in the shower and did her bedtime routines, which she did. She was already on top of it, so nothing to do there.
Okay. What time do you think you got back in Kissimmee?
What time I got into Kissimmee?
Yeah.
Maybe 8 o'clock, 8:30ish, something like that.
And I apologize if you've answered these questions before. It's just like I said, we're coming into the game late, so I may ask you things that you've already answered probably 3 or 4 times.
Well, I apologize as well. My memory is not super reliable on time frames. I've been medicated for the better part of a week.
Okay, that's fine. What do you take medicine for?
Anxiety mostly. I've been having some money troubles lately. Anxious over that. So.
Okay. Well, hopefully your money troubles get better.
I've been medicated on Ativan.
All right, so this is the first. We've got 3 other Stephan Sterns clips, and then we have the entire Jenn Soto. So we've got a lot to look through here for sure. I'm going to mute it and play it back. Phil, is this a typical setting for an interview? What stood out to you here?
Well, excuse me. I would not set the room up in this manner.
Explain.
Well, everything that goes on in this interview room, the setup from the preparation for the interview and the setup of the room itself is critical. And the way I instruct setting up the room is to get that table out of the way so that if it's being used by anybody, it's going to be used by the detectives conducting the interview. Now, that if I was setting up this room, that table would be over in the corner where he is, and or it would be over against this wall. But you would have the 2 detectives, whoever's decided that they're going to be the primary, they would be setting up stacked on one another, and he would be sitting over against the wall probably a foot and a half off of that table. And it's good. It looks like he's sitting in a chair with no wheels. It appears that they're sitting in a chair with wheels. That's to give them mobility. But if you're going to conduct a two-man interview, you've got to set it up where you have a transition. If the second interviewer is now going to ask questions, you've got to have a smooth transition. And the best way to do that is to stack up. When the primary says, do you have any questions? And the secondary says, yes, I do. Then it's a very simple motion to simply rotate around and swap places. You don't want to allow him to use the table as a crutch. And he needs to understand that you're in control of the interview. So I would just set it up differently because that table is a barrier between him and the detectives. Now, this one over here that seems to be doing most of the talking, he's got a better position on him, but it's still, there is that barrier that's real or perceived between he and this suspect. So, and what we're seeing here is I mean, the classic, closing off with the hands crossed in front of his chest. He's closed off. He's not looking at them. He's having to determine what his answer is going to be. There's a little bit of chopping there when he's trying to make a point, and they're asking him close-ended questions. You need to give him the opportunity to explain things, not just say yes or no. So initial blush here, and I don't know how far they are into the interview, but those are my first impressions.
Amazing. I can guarantee you this. You're not going to get a better breakdown on a police interview from anybody, anywhere, any channel, any part of the world, any continent than you will from Phil Waters. Anyone wants to fight me on that, you will meet me behind the Bank of America where my podcast studio is. So there you go. Scott Duffy. Just going to play this and we're going to go to the next one because we got so much to get through here. But a lot of people are saying, I'm going to play it for 1 second. His voice irritating the crap out of
So
the
party ends. Did you pick them up from the party?
Someone must have dropped her off.
Okay.
She was there when I got there. Jenn asked me to make sure that in the shower and did her bedtime routines, which she did. She was already on top.
I mean, Scott, doesn't take for me, and I'm no police officer, no Phil Waters, no Scott Duffy, but you do see the body language. He's kind of caved in, the hat on. He's making no eye contact. How do you approach this as a federal agent? This is not a federal case, but what would you do differently here, if anything?
Not so much differently, and totally agree with Phil on everything. However, I used a table, and in my classes, I'll say, hey, if the table's there, and often I interviewed people in other agencies, so I didn't have the luxury of changing an interview room around. So, you have to use what you use, but absolutely, Phil's right. The optimum is to have that table out of that way, and you be able to have just as if you have somebody over at your house.
Scott, but can I just? I know I'm going to get for that, but
no, you're not.
You mentioned going to other agencies, and I just wanted to strike while the iron's hot there. I will tell you this: I've done the same thing. I've gone to other agencies. They give us the room. And I tell you what I've done. I go in and I rearrange the furniture. I take chairs out. I take tables out. I do that. I do. And I ask them permission. I said, can we set it up? And I've never had anybody buck me on it. So it's important that if you're going to be the interviewer, you've got to set the stage. And I saw the comment here where they said that he was sitting in one of the chairs, I guess, with wheels on it. And the detective directed him over to the chair with no wheels, and he kind of moaned about it. So that is good. That's a good sign that they did that because it shows him they are in control of what's going on in the room. So I'm sorry, Scott, I didn't mean to cut you off, but
I'll tell you what, because I know we're going to run out of stuff. I like to drip it in a little bit, but since you guys are short for time today, Stephan, by the way, is only 38 years old. It's hard to believe. I feel like he looks like he could be my dad, and I'm like 20 years older basically than this guy. So I think he's probably had a tough life, or I've had a really good life. I don't know which, or maybe somewhere in the middle. But this is Anjanette Levy. I'll be honest, I'm not 100% sure what this is that we're about to watch. This is she's obviously our friend. She's from Law and Crime, and she was doing this story. I think it's going to be about Stephan. Let's take a watch here.
Sleeping arrangements.
He sleeps in.
Okay. Did she sleep in her bed Sunday night?
No. I was just back. I'd been away for a couple months. We in the same bed together, so we get some serious sleep. So she said no to that and suggested that the guest room upstairs had a big enough bed. So some snuggle cuddle time that would suffice, and Jen would get to sleep in peace.
Okay. So you say snuggle time. What does that mean?
I like to be alone. She is extremely dependent. She does not like to be alone at all. She needs human presence around her. Simply.
Gotcha.
We've been trying to wean her off of that, but it's been difficult.
Now, the detectives asked Sterns about where he claimed he dropped Maddie off at school that Monday morning on February 26th.
Was she by herself when you dropped her, or was her friends there?
Yeah, she was by herself. She said she was going to go find her friends and hang out, wait for them to show up.
Okay.
It was still early.
Where did you go after that? Like, did you see her walk towards the...
I saw her making her way towards the direction of the school, but she was like kind of shuffle step. She was meandering her way there. She was rummaging through her backpack for something. I assumed she was looking for headphones, maybe. But as it turns out, she did leave her phone at home that day, so she might have actually been looking for her phone.
What was she wearing when she left, or when you dropped her off?
Green hoodie, black shorts, black or blue, black shorts, white Crocs.
White Crocs.
Okay, so this is him again. I'm going to mute it. Obviously talking. He mentioned snuggle time. Very disturbing. Phil Waters. I won't even pose a question. I'll just let you take it here. More the kind of guarded body language. I don't know. Do you want to listen to any more, Phil? Or you want to just?
Well, we can comment on what we're seeing here. So I think what's interesting, you watch him, we got some leg movement, we got an ass wipe out of him. So he is displaying combinations of body language that would indicate that the words coming out of his mouth are going to be deceptive. Now, he's going to mix some of the truth in here because the best lies that are told have elements of the truth in them. But just watching him here in these clips, and it looked like he had taken a drink of water, so he's got his mouth is dry, and so he's trying to shore up, and these little gestures, or he's just trying to affirm what he is saying, but then he's immediately putting it back into his back into the closed off and covered up.
Yeah.
Body language.
Phil, Jimmy McNutty is asking you to define an ass wipe. Good question.
Well, you can play it back. What you will see is you see kids do this all the time. When you get a child that is fixing to get, their butts ripped up because they did something wrong, they're denying things and they are moving around in that seat. So if you watch him, you'll see leg movement. And then you'll see the ass wipe. I mean, it's pretty description of what he's doing. So I don't know where that was there you go. There's the leg movement. And
you just slid. There you go.
There's the ass wipe right there.
Wow. Bet you guys didn't know to look for an ass wipe. Hope that doesn't demonetize us. I don't think it will. Scott Duffy, What about the questions that the detectives are asking? I'll take it back to here and play it.
So you say snuggle time. What does that mean?
Like to be alone. She is extremely dependent. She does not like to be alone at all. She needs human presence around her. Simply.
Gotcha.
We've been trying to wean her off of that, but it's been difficult.
Now, the detectives asked Sterns about where he claimed he dropped Maddie off at school that Monday morning on February 26th.
Was she by herself when you dropped her, or was her friends there?
Yeah, she was by herself. She said she was going to go find her friends and hang out, wait for them to show up.
Okay.
It was still early.
Where did you go after that? Like, did you see her walk towards the?
I saw her making her.
Scott, so he does what I do, but I don't know if this is good technique for either of us, but especially for a police interview, because no one is really in trouble when I'm talking to them. But he asked 2 questions. Like he didn't allow him to answer the first question. Is that bad practice? And then he's asking sort of closed, simple questions. What was she wearing? What does snuggle time mean? Is that good?
Well, he did. It was an open-ended on the snuggles, so he asked him to define it as opposed to making a statement and expecting him to say yes or no. So Phil's right with regards to open-ended. You want to keep him going. You want to keep him speaking, and don't shut him up. Just wait till he's done, because everything he says, lies and truths mixed in, are just great for when you come back. So he's hearing the story, getting everything that he can, probably redirect him with a couple of questions, ask slightly different to see if he repeats his answers or changes up the answers, making note of those changes, right? You're ultimately looking for the anomalies. You're looking for changes in the story that you'll be able to go back and say, hey, this is what you said first, this is what you said second, etc. So where Sterns actually will know, okay, so you're listening, and so I have to be careful. So yes, the closed questions are never good. And then, of course, when the detective does that, it's a little bit of leading. Let him answer, and let him make the statement that he is either going to make sense or not, and then you follow up with saying, explain that to me. Ultimately, explain that it just keeps the conversation going, keeps Stern talking. This is, I imagine, the point where he is laying out many lies, and so let him continue down that path.
Phil, from Nito Ceramics, I could do this show. We got to do these shows more often where these guys break down interviews, but this is unreal. It's sad that today I've only got about 45 minutes, so I want to get through Jenn Soto too. But Phil, from Nito Ceramics, Fil and Scott, Phil, do these cases still make your blood boil, Phil, after all these years of seeing cases firsthand? Not sure if you become more numb to this evil, Phil.
Excuse me, I assume we're referring to these cases that we talk about every week, right?
In particular.
No, I am just sometimes dumbfounded at the things that people continue to do to other people, especially to children, and it enrages me. But I've been able to, over the years, seen so many of these things. I wouldn't say I'm numb to it, but I would say I've been able to compartmentalize the emotion from the analysis of that particular crime and that particular suspect in a way that doesn't come, because when you walk in these rooms, I mean, Scott, I'm sure has felt the same way. When you walk into these rooms to interview a suspect, and in my case, that has done something committed the most horrific act they can on another human being, is take their life by an act of violence. you just, if you're going to be successful, you cannot walk in there wearing emotion on your sleeve. You have to go in there and recognize what your job is and what your duty is to the victim and their families. And it's to get to the truth about what happened. So it's never, I never entered a room expecting that I was going to be talking to him about what kind of charge we're talking about and that kind of thing, because that wasn't the goal. My expectation is that every time that they were going to tell me what they did and why they did it. Now, there were some that did not, but in most cases, I established that relationship with them, and they did. Now, sometimes they would give self-serving statements, and that's fine. Put them there, but saying, well, I was over here doing this and that, whatever. But the notion that you walk in there, because I have seen detectives that have walked in and immediately get emotional and start ripping them. I mean, the Resendez case, the rail car killer that went all over the country killing people and brutally murdering men and women in their beds asleep using sledgehammers and axes. I mean, it was, what he did was evil. He was described as the devil. I mean, this guy was an evil guy. And I watched the detective walk in there and immediately go off on him and telling him, we're going to put the needle in you. And that's just not the way you're going to get to the truth talking to somebody like that. And then another detective went in and talked to him over a period of time. And I think the Texas Ranger that was big time involved in this thing interviewed him, and he confessed to these things. So I don't think numb is the word. I think compartmentalizing what our duty is, separate, and then we can deal with the emotional stuff later.
Yeah. By the way, have you ever heard of Owasso, Oklahoma? Because that's where Owasso Egan is from.
Yeah, it's right outside of Tulsa. Yeah.
There you go. Owasso's in the house. Welcome. We love exotic locales. Scott Duffy, very quickly, because I want to show you the next clip. Jenn Soto was with this guy for years, like 7-something years, maybe 8 years. Any chance she didn't know what was going on?
No, she knew.
There you go. There was the shortest answer I've ever seen. Here we go. Watch this one. We have 2 more Stephan Sterns clips, and then we're going to spend the rest of the time looking at Jenn Soto. Here we go.
You gave the deputies consent to look through your phone. You did? Okay. And you voluntarily gave it to them so they could bring it here to do the extraction and stuff like that. Okay. What do you think was on the phone?
Text messages.
Mm-hmm.
Emails. Old stuff.
Pictures?
Oh, yeah.
What kind of pictures?
I'm going to stop it there, Scott Duffy, just to lay the groundwork here. So this is kind of a gotcha moment. These detectives are telling him they have his phone. What do you think's on it? And now he starts to list off, and the detective, I think, said photos. There was an inordinate amount of photos, which is, sickening and hard to even, I just got like bad chills because I have 2 daughters. But I just wanted to let everyone know that's what we're talking about here. They basically have him. I've noticed too, Scott, that the body language on the detectives have kind of changed. The guy on the left now leaning forward, looking a little more interested, as is the other detective with that beautiful bald dome. Let's keep playing, and we'll get Scott's take.
Pictures that were on there.
Training card pictures, lightsaber pictures, Disney pictures.
Do you have a Google account?
Yeah.
Do you save pictures to your Google account?
Sometimes. Yeah.
Or is it automatically? I know sometimes phones sync to a cloud and.
Yeah, I think it backs up to Google.
Here's where I'm going to be brutally honest with you. There's your phone. And I'm pretty sure you know what some of those pictures are about. You're a very intelligent person. And I don't want you to discredit yourself by saying you don't know about all the pictures that are on your phone. You understand what I'm saying? So do you want to add to the list of pictures?
I don't know. Should I be talking with a lawyer right now?
Should I be talking with a lawyer? He asked the final question. Scott Duffy, he's obviously evading the question about the disturbing photos. Your take on this part? You see that detective kind of looks like he's ready to go in there with the hands moving, rubbing against each other. But what do you see here, Scott Duffy?
Yeah, and I think I was watching Phil at the same time when Stearns did it. I think we both picked up that his body gave the confession when he just did that. Yes, I know there are other photos. I'm not telling you. And that's part of the game, and that's part of the prep. When you go in, you know, the primary's job is watch the body, engage, converse, you know, be empathetic. Let this. I don't like that, but I'm not here to but that's that, you know, that's not a good thing. I don't like that because it's like you're looking down on your glasses. People know you're looking down and so forth. So, you know, the whole job of the primary there is to get Stearns to wanting to open up, right? To back off a little bit if you need to, because, you know, hey, he's talking, he's not asking for a lawyer, he's giving me some lies, mixing with truth and so forth. And then, you know, you go in for the kill at that point, and you're like, oh, have you got any admissions beyond, you know, on smaller things, and then build up to the pictures, right? And so when you go for the kill, you know what I'm talking about and so forth. It kind of led into, I think this guy's just gonna tell me stuff. So it's almost like you have to listen to what's not being said. So he gives a list of things that have nothing to do. What's the one thing everybody has on their phone? If you have a family, are pictures of your family and pets. And he mentions everything, like lightsabers. Those are snapshots, right, of stock photos and whatnot that you stream through. So know that because he hasn't mentioned one picture, family pictures, anything like that, that's saying a lot. And so kind of
That's interesting.
draw into, so do you have any pictures with your wife, with your family at home, or this or that, and just let him kind of ease into it. So, but when he did that, it was a very silent acknowledgement. And instead of just letting it build up and kind of help him through that, it became a, you know, like, yeah, the lawyer, it was kind of a natural end to that.
That's interesting. I mean, it's obvious, but I never would have thought of it, that everyone's got pets and family, and yet he kind of skirts around those. I'm going to bring up this last one.
Can I?
Yeah. Hop in, Phil. Yep.
So we saw some shoulder shrugs as well. There was a pregnant pause there, and in my world, sitting in that room with silence is a bad move. You've got to keep throwing noise at him. You do not want to give him time to contemplate. And they gave him a little bit, they went a little bit longer. Now there's times where I've used the pregnant pause, but they went a little bit longer than I would have gone, because he's formulating in his head, how am I going to answer these questions? And I can tell you, he knows, you know, in the little subtle admissions, the body language, the nodding, that kind of thing. But I will tell you that in his mind, he's more concerned about those pictures than about the fact that he killed Maddie.
Mm.
And you will find this a lot with guys that are involved in sexual assault as it relates to the murder, to the homicide. And you will find these guys that will admit to the murder and do not want to admit to the sexual assault component of it. That's where he finds himself. He does not want to admit that he was sexually assaulting Maddie and had been over a period of time. He does not want to admit that he has got that child pornography on that phone and maybe pictures of Maddie as well. So this little admission here, that's golden. But I'm watching the detectives too, and they're over there rubbing their hands, they're ass wiping themselves. Well, that didn't come out right. They are both committing ass wipes separately. And this is why I instruct to set up this room in a manner in which the secondary does not become a distraction. So they've triangulated on him. And the problem is that when one of them asks him a question, then he can look at the other one and see what the other one's doing. So it becomes a distraction. And when you've got him stacked in there and he knows that the person that is talking to him is the one conducting the interview, because in order for him to get to the secondary guy, he's got to go through the primary guy. And he's not going to do that if they're stacked up in there in the way that I would set the room up.
Yeah, man,
So,
I learned something new every day, because in media, it's the exact opposite. You want quiet because that's when the emotion comes out. You know, when he's pausing.
Here they go. There goes his, and then he does another one. So
yeah.
I just think that, and they're offering, and Scott's right. I mean, he knows what they know, and he knows they know it. So he's more concerned now about these pictures than he is about, and the other detective says pictures, what's on the phone. And he suggests it. He leads it into pictures. Let him answer these questions. Do not be, because I guarantee you later on he's going to say, well, they were telling me stuff. That's why I was talking about it, because they were telling me. Now, this thing about the lawyer, he didn't invoke a right there, by the way, folks.
Yeah. What I was going to ask.
His question was, do you think I need something about, do you think I need to talk to my lawyer, or do you think I need a lawyer, something of that regard?
Yeah.
And I've had him do that in the room. That is not invoking the right to an attorney.
Did they have to make the statement, I want an attorney? Is that the difference?
You've got to invoke the right. When he asks a question like that, and I've had him do it in the room, I've had him do it when I'm reading the Miranda.
Yeah.
And my response to them is, I can't advise you either way.
Yeah.
What we need to know now is the answer to this question. Get him back on track on the question. But he didn't invoke a right there with that. Should I have a lawyer here?
Right now?
He said, should I talk with a lawyer right now? That's what it was right there.
That's a question, and that's not invoking the right.
Yeah. Scott Duffy, the question, since you said you're pretty firm in your belief that Jenn Soto knew, how come no arrest with her yet?
I'm not sure. I don't know what the police have. I don't, and it comes down to, you can make assumptions, for example. So you have to have probable cause. So either he's going to say, this is what we did together, or it's going to come down to something that they're going to be able to use in probable cause. So we can make assumptions. It makes absolutely sense, especially with watching one of the clips several months ago when we looked at the both of them speaking. I believe it was from her apartment. And so you could just tell that eventually, one or both are going to be in custody. So they have who they have off the streets. The most important, the number one, the killer and the one who's abusing and the one who possesses CP. So she is going to be a secondary, and there are things that they're going to have to get through law enforcement with what was his influence over her, what is she about. So I don't know what she brought to the table here. So that's why I can make assumptions, but
Yeah.
Well, let me throw this in here about her. Why hasn't she been arrested? Well, you got to have evidence, right? You got to have something that gives you at least probable cause to exercise an arrest. Now, if in Texas, what I would see this way leaning was that she would likely be charged with injury to a child by omission. It's still a first-degree felony. It carries the same punishment as a murder charge. So now he's looking at a capital murder charge and a death penalty thing. And now there's also in Texas, there's parties to the offense. So, I mean, there's the possibility she could also be charged with capital murder. So, but my sense here is that she makes a better witness than she does a defendant. And that may be the deal that is being cut behind the scenes, that she will testify on behalf of the prosecution, behalf of the state, against him. And in return, she will plead to some sort of lesser charge like injury to a child and receive a sentence based on that. So I don't see in this case, I don't see them charging her with capital murder. I think it's going to be more along the lines of an injury to a child by omission type of charge, if she's charged. But those prosecutors have got to, these are decisions that they have to make. These are not decisions that are made by the detectives in that room. Their goal is to get to the truth about what happened from the person who is the one suspected of committing the act.
So this, I'm going to leave the last Stephan Sterns. We saw 3 clips of him. This is Jenn Soto. This looks like a totally different type of room. The COE, you're controlling this one. Let's take it to the top or wherever you want to start from. Let's play it, and we will stop it intermittently for Fil and Scott to weigh in. But COE, can you cue this up? I don't think I can.
And just as a lead up, Joel, I believe this would be, and we have these victim witness rooms. The
question is, where is the COE? That is the $24,000 question, because I cannot play this. So, COE, are you?
We have upwards probably 200 people working on fire. Right, the Orange County Sheriff's Office is involved. The Kissimmee Police Department's involved. St. Cloud Police Department, Osceola County Sheriff's Office, Florida Department of Law Enforcement, FBI. Yes, under suspicious circumstances. So anybody who is somebody is involved.
Yeah.
So regardless of the circumstances, those people don't get to go home. Those people don't get to go back to their families. Those people don't get to live their lives and go back to their primary jobs. I know the sheriff has probably expressed to you that's his #1 priority. I'm sure the Kissimmee Police Department's expressed that to you, our detectives. This isn't something that's going to stop or go away.
Yeah.
Right? Anybody who knows something, anybody who may know something, will be brought to a room, will be talked to, whether they're guilty, whether they're innocent. Because our #1 priority, our jobs have kind of stopped on any other things we have going on until it's fine, because that's the most important thing anybody has going on right now. But with that,
COE, can we stop it there? Okay, so just my own observations here, Phil Waters, correct me if I'm wrong. These 2 law enforcement officers, and I don't know, I think they're maybe Kissimmee PD. They seem the lead I don't know, much more on the ball. I don't know if that's fair to say. Like, he knows exactly where he's headed, where he wants to go. I'm looking at Jenn Soto's body language right here. I mean, I don't want to body shame, but she's just looking frumpy. Like she just looks like she is like sunk down in the sofa there, right in the middle. Very odd kind of look. She's got a roll of paper towels next to her and looks like some tissues. But what have you seen, Phil, with your skilled eye up to this point?
Well, again, I would never set up an interview like this in this manner. And to what Scott was talking about, yeah, we have we call it the crying room. This is where we put family members and that kind of thing. And we put suspects in there and to interview sometimes especially when it's a non-custodial setting. And I'm assuming that that's what this is. This is a non-custodial setting. They've got her in what I'll call the crying room, which is not the place to interview her. She's a suspect. At the very least, she's a witness. At the very most, she's a suspect. But I conduct interviews in the same manner. The setup is the same. I'm consistent with whoever I'm talking to, whether it's a complainant that is alive, whether it is a witness, whether it is a suspect. So, I would not set up this interview in this manner. And in terms of so you have two detectives in there. It's going to be a 2-man interview. And again, they're set up in a manner that she can get a question from one and answer the other. I mean, it just gives her a way out. Now, her body language is, I mean, we saw the leg movement and the feet movement, and she sticks her hands underneath her thighs. That is all security stuff. She's sinking, is a good observation there, Joel. I mean, she's trying to sink into the couch. That's why you do not give them a place to sit like this. You put them in a hard chair with no wheels on it up against the wall, because you're going to be able to see she's gotten comfortable now. And she's got her hands under it. So she is pinning her hands down. She is slumping, and she's paying attention. She knows exactly where they're going with this. And so she is trying to fit herself into the glove of security that couch is providing. So again, I wouldn't set it up in this manner.
Yeah. Joy says she's trying to go away, but she is, unlike Stephan Sterns, her boyfriend, she's making like direct laser eye contact with this lead investigator. A lot of people saying they need their own.
I don't mean to interrupt you, Joe, but Joy, that is a good observation, because in the business, what we would say is she's creating distance as best she can. So,
Phil, how come you hate the word interrogation, even though that was the name of your show? Why do you prefer interview? I'm curious.
Well, interrogations are two different, and interviews are two different things. So the whole tone of an interrogation is what it implies. You're in there, you're going to be more forceful, you're going to be asking more pointed questions. Right off the bat, it's going to be, the level of anxiety is going to be much higher than if you go in and interview someone. And because the purpose of an interview is to what? It's establish a relationship. You're trying to get the truth out of these folks. And when you go in, and if you've got the mindset that you're going to go in and interrogate someone, it's a more forceful type of interview process. And it does not reap the benefits that going in and conducting an interview. And I've asked this question before. I mean, Joel, would you rather me interview you or interrogate you?
Neither. Both would scare me. So, but I guess interview is a good way to put it. Nan R pointing out here, they have shown her the pictures of him and Maddie at this point at the interview. COE, let's roll it, and Scott Duffy will get the next crack. Scott, if you see something, raise your hand. Don't say something, just raise your hand, and we'll stop it and come to you. Otherwise, if you see something,
that would ever happen. I can tell you, I know detectives expressed to you that the thought process at this point is this is a homicide investigation.
Yeah.
Based on the evidence I've seen, based on the videos I've seen, I do believe. With that being said, and the reason I tell you that, not to be an asshole, is because the thought process with us leads it in a different investigation, a different way. Meaning, whatever has already happened, right? We cannot change what happened most likely on Monday. We cannot change the fact that I believe Stephan killed her, right? All we can do now is find her as quickly as possible. On the 2% chance we're wrong that she is alive, that's phenomenal, right? That's the best thing that could happen. On the chance that we are 100% correct and she has passed away, finding her now versus later will bring closure to your family, will bring closer to everybody, regardless of how it happened or why it happened.
COE, let's cut it there for a moment.
If you had
this is long, so I'll let the next one play out. We're never going to get through this. We have about 25 minutes left with the two unbelievable experts on this. But Scott Duffy, he's very he even said, I don't mean to be an asshole. Like he's very transparent. And he says that this was a homicide. I guess this is obviously before they find the body. So and when he says that, you literally hear an audible like wail from her, like, oh, you know, like that. So what is the thought process, or what is the strategy here with this lead investigator right now?
I'm a little confused. So, you know, she does a shuffle, the foot comes off the floor, she does well, but then she ceases. She's very quick to shut it off. So she's being told officially, hey, this is a homicide. Your daughter didn't run off. Your daughter didn't disappear. We're looking for her, or this, or your boyfriend's hiding her. And so she's being told, probably here for the first time in an official capacity, this is a murder investigation. She's not yet found. She wails, oh my God. And then now it's back to listen intently. Just imagine that as a mother. So I'm going to go back to what Phil is saying. This shouldn't even happen in this room, because this is they are making a strong case that she knows or participated in hiding the body. So they're at this point, they're saying, you know, at least post-mortem, abuse of corpse, something to that effect. So if you're talking about a crime, and you're in this type of room, I'm confused. I'm confused that it's not like, I just want to let you know, this is the official, we believe your daughter's dead. Allow the victim to reveal whatever emotion is going to reveal. This is like boom, 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 boom. And, you know, it's very confusing.
So when you say you're confused about the approach here is what you're saying.
Yeah. Why is this in the room? Because there's no doubt this is going to, you know, we're probably not telling you anything you don't know, but this is a murder investigation. In our strong opinion, there's a wail for about a second, and then it's turned off like a faucet. And so they're obviously moving towards, hey, we would like to find the body and wrap this up. And we know, we believe you're going to be the one to help us there. So it's at what juncture throughout this investigation is this taking place, as opposed to how many conversations they have had with her and spent time with her? Perhaps they've Mirandized her on previous occasions or whatnot. But I don't like the setup, the location, and then going in for, you know, kind of an announcement, almost like two police officers showing up at your door. Are you so and so? We would like to come in and speak with you. The person at the front door is going to be like, two police officers shouldn't be at my door, and so this is going to be bad news. And they're bracing themselves. This one seems like Yeah, well, we think you know where the body is because you might have had something to do with hiding the body. It's if it's confusing to me, I can tell you it's very confusing to her.
Yeah, we're gonna play out a few more minutes. By the way, we'll never get through this. And before I forget, next Friday is real quick. Next Friday is the Jewish New Year, Rosh Hashanah. So there will not be a show Thursday, Friday. But I'm starting to think, what would be super interesting with Fil and Scott. Once we get through this, maybe we'll carry it over to next time we meet, which will be the following Friday, I believe. But maybe at your suggestion, survivingthesurvivor@gmail.com, we can pull up some famous police interviews from previous cases and have Fil and Scott break it down, because this, to me, is fascinating. Phil Waters, you had a comment.
Well, there was one moment there where she emoted. I mean, she kind of does the, kind of does that little thing. Excuse me. And I was reminded of the old Carlston Selly quote, lips that lie are sticky and dry and the liar's palms are not. Genuine tears can be verified only when accompanied by snot. So she got past the emotion real quick.
Who said that? What was that quote again? I need that quote again.
Carlston Selly. He was a detective, I believe, in Sacramento with the sheriff's office.
And what was the quote? What was the quote?
Lips that lie are sticky and dry. The liar's palms are not. Genuine tears can be verified only when accompanied by snot.
Amazing. Simply amazing.
And so this, and talking about her hands to this, back to the quote, the liar's palms are not. So her lips are sticky and dry because she's lying, but her palms are not. So she's got the palms underneath here. She knows that she is sweating up a storm. So she is trying to manipulate that or keep that down. And I think I agree with Scott about what I don't like about this is I'm not confused by it, but I don't like their approach is the way I would categorize that. I just don't like their approach to her. She knows exactly what they're talking about. So trying to, lob softballs at her is not what you ought to be doing. This is put her in a room, get the room set up the right way, and get in there and talk to her and be firm about what you're in there to talk to her about. She's just sitting there absorbing all this stuff. And I think he comes off as a nice guy and all that stuff. But you know what? We had a detective that was able to go in there and talk. He could never close it. And that's what I see happening here. A lot of talk, but they're not closing this deal. They're going way on too long about the stuff he's
By the way, this goes on, I think, COE, correct me if I'm wrong. This goes on for about like an hour and a half, I believe.
The same kind of stuff?
Yeah. So there's no way. I mean, what I'm thinking is next time we meet, we'll play the next hour. Go ahead,
He needs
Phil.
to close this thing out.
Yeah. Okay, COE, roll it, and we'll keep watching for a little bit.
Have an inclination, if you know where she's at, if his father knows, that doesn't mean those people get held accountable for what he did. It doesn't mean those people get held accountable for knowing what he did. It means we close out the investigation. You know what I mean? So a lot of times we go into rooms like this and we ask people questions. We say, hey, do you know what happened? Do you know what happened? And there's this fear of what happened already happened. I can't change that. So I'm not going to insert myself with knowledge because it's going to make me look bad. Regardless, at this point,
He won't let her talk.
Stop it, COE.
He's not asking her any questions.
Yeah.
So Phil, what if you could take this guy out in the hallway? What do you say to him, this lead investigator?
I pull him out of the room and put somebody in there that can close it.
How? Let me ask you this: how long should this take to close? And what would it look like? Why don't you go into Phil Waters, the detective? How would you close this?
Well, I'd start asking her questions for one thing. I don't. Scott, have you heard one question being asked?
Yeah, no, this is it. The interview should all be her talking. He's doing all the talking.
Yeah, and so this is just a academic exercise here. He's just discussing the case with her as though they're, hanging out on the corner with Joe Schmuckatelli and talking about this case. So I just, he doesn't know how to close it, and she is ripe. I don't, you can never really put a time frame on these interviews. I mean, I've had interviews that, wow, they were ready to confess the minute we started talking. Then I've had one that, my longest one, I think, has gone 6 hours. So I'm just kind of astounded at the approach they've taken here. And they're giving her a nice education about law enforcement agencies and what they think their responsibilities are, but they're getting nowhere near her telling what she knows.
Yeah. By the way, this is, according to Puppy Palace, her 4th interview that she has given.
See, that's even worse.
Yeah, so there you go. Fil, Scott, very good points. It goes without saying. So this looks like it goes an hour and 21 minutes. If we can get to the 20-minute mark, I'll play the next hour next time we meet. And I think this is actually an interesting idea with Fil and Scott. We'll pull up some old for another show in the future. I don't know who. I'm just pulling someone like Casey Anthony out of my what, but maybe someone like that, and deconstruct a police interview that she did. So COE, let's let her play, and we'll stop it again in a few minutes.
You victimized her. You ruined her entire life from childhood until now. I think that there's probably some sense of guilt. And my fear is that sense of guilt is causing you to not want to assist in the location of her, not because you're a bad person, but because there's that sense of guilt that what was happening under your roof. And now, by her being found, brings that all to your plate, and it doesn't.
Oh no. If I knew anything, I would so tell you. I wanted to believe in what she said, because you guys tell me your suspicions, but I'm not going to believe it until I have her body.
So there are things.
Stop it, COE.
Again, I'm not trying to be an asshole.
There he says it again. Fil just started shaking his head, so I want to know her response. If I knew, I would tell you. What are you shaking your head about?
Oh, the feet are moving. We got the no snot crying crap going on again. She's firming up. These guys won't ask her a question, so she's not going to answer a question. She's not being asked, so so it's very subtle. But let me tell you what she did. And Scott, did you pick up when she went into surrender?
No, I didn't.
Okay, well, you play that back, and you're going to see her go into surrender. It's very slight.
COE, play that back like a couple without the audio. Maybe, I don't know.
Brings that all to your plate, and it doesn't.
Oh no. If I knew anything, I would so tell you.
Before this, COE, a little before this.
You guys tell me your
Go back to the beginning of
I'm not
this.
going to believe.
You ruined her entire life from childhood until now. I think that there's probably some sense.
Oh,
she's
in surrender.
That's
the head
surrender.
Down like that. The head down.
And what's going to happen is when she comes up, she's going to do one of three things. She's either going to deny it, she's going to negotiate. What would somebody get if they were convicted of something like this? Or she's going to make an admission. And what did she do? If I knew something, I'd tell you. She denied it. So one of those three things is going to happen. She went into surrender. She came up and she denied it.
I don't know about you guys, but I could do this for 9 hours. This is fascinating to me because it's not just for this stuff. It's you can use it in real life. COE, let's pick it up right where the surrender is. We'll take it a little bit further. This is true, by the way. Go ahead, COE. Oh.
The reason I say these things, this has been a lot of things you've said and a lot of things I've kind of researched between the Fox 35 story, between your initial statement to the police. A lot of things have changed. The initial statement to the police was you watched her get dressed, you watched her leave, you knew exactly what she was wearing.
Can I tell you
Absolutely.
my thought process on that, or where I came from with that? I was handed this form, and I'm like, where do I start? What do I write? And somebody said, tell them what you saw. And so I started with I saw, and then I wrote out what I wrote out. But it wasn't until later I was like, wait, I didn't see her. I assumed that I saw her. I assumed that I heard her, but I didn't. In reality, I didn't see her. I only saw him, and I heard something in the kitchen, but I don't know who that was.
Which we talked about today. But I guess there's other concerns. Right? You were nervous. The police have showed you their hand. They said, Stephan, we want your phone. Stephan, we want to talk to you. You're going to lock down your residence. You can't go back inside. Me, I don't care if it's the love of my life sitting next to me. I don't care if it's maternal grandma. If the police come and take my mom's phone and my son's disappearance, I'm not going to offer my mom a lawyer. That's nuts to me. That to me shows you prioritizing stuff.
Stop it.
Because
Stop it.
Point,
Stop it. Phil, I got to go to Phil because he's shaking his head. So now, Phil, correct me if I'm wrong. Let me take a stab at this. He's now telling her what he would do in this situation. And that, I think, is a big mistake because he's basically leading her into something that where he should be getting it from her. Am I right or am I wrong?
Yeah, well, she's getting, Scott, I don't know if you agree with me or not, but she's getting more confident about this interview. Now you see her, she pulls the hands out, she grabs the Kleenex or whatever, she's wiping freaking sweat off of her, she's doing the thing with her face, she's crossing her legs, she's getting more comfortable because he's not asking her anything. He's just telling her stuff. And then we saw a big time ass wipe, which was great. So all these things that are going on, all she has to do is maintain what she's doing. If we were in Vegas, it'd be we're here at the casino in the Cherokee Nation. It'd be a push here. So, and she has figured it out. No more emoting. She's more confident in this discussion now. And again, he can't close it. I mean, he had her. When he saw her going to surrender, she came up and denied it. That would have been the time to strike. But oh my gosh, he's missing. And then she does a little bit of chopping, but then she does something that's different when she talks about I'm assuming, and she's using circular motions. Now, in my experience, when someone uses circular motions, that is a sign of they're telling the truth. They're not being deceptive. So that statement about I was assuming something, I'm going to say that is going toward the least likely deceptive side. And depending on what was said before and after that, which is going to be, I think it was more of a direct knowledge implication. And she is talking about, I assumed, which would mean she didn't have maybe direct knowledge about what was going on. She knew what was going on, but she'd not seen any examples of it directly. So interesting. She's an interesting study in body language.
Yeah. By the way, Phil, then we'll play one more chunk. We'll get Scott's reaction and we'll close it out. So one day these guys have to leave early is the one day I could have made this a 4-hour show. That is life. That's how it goes. But what was I just going to ask Phil? It's going to come back to me. Would you say that the majority of law enforcement in this country, that they are good, that they are skilled interviewers, or do you think that's a big problem? Just from local to state to federal, do these guys all need better training in terms of obtaining confessions? The bozo. Haven't heard that in a while. I don't know if Phil is just avoiding the answer.
That was this question for Scott.
No, it's for you. It was for you.
Oh,
You're the
Scott. Why don't you answer it so I don't fade any more heat than I'm already going to?
You're spot on, Phil. You're and like I said, often I'm a student at these, and so yes, I mean,
Scott, look at this. Bossy Texas chick says about 5% are good. The rest are terrible at interviews. Do you agree with that, Scott? Is this a problem?
Yeah, I mean, I don't want to put a percentage on it. I'll just say this. So like in patrol, I love being in a police chase. Your adrenaline gets up, but that same desire should be in an interview room, to where it's something you prep for, something you live for, something you die for. And without casting any aspersions onto these detectives, it does seem like it's something that they're not used to, and something they're not passionate about. And so it really is a game. It really is, like, hey, I have all day, and let's break for lunch, because this thing is going to go on forever. So absolutely, there's never enough training for law enforcement. But I would also say, in just training in a 2-hour interview school last week, I always take a poll: how many have a basic understanding of interviewing, interrogation, and getting somebody to just relax in a police station? And I can tell you, it's so few. And I teach from day one to, people coming with 30, 35 years on, and still say that there's not enough training out there for good interview schools. So I would say you take the school, but then you go teach yourself and be that like you want to do that, as if that is what you become a police officer for.
By the way,
let me
go ahead,
say
Phil. Go ahead.
This is the old: you can lead a horse to water, but you can't make it drink. So, in my experience, I've been a law enforcement instructor for 30 something years, and I will tell you that. And I've instructed all over the world. I mean, and you have, most cops are type A personalities. That's why they're doing what they're doing. You get into detective work, and they're really type A personalities. You get into narcotics and homicide, and these high speed type, very they're type A personalities on steroids. Now, so what I'm getting at is that you can instruct, and I've instructed. I'm sure Scott's done the same thing. You instruct, you give them the tools to do the job. But the interviewing is an art form. It is something that you only get better at because you do it, and you make yourself better through your experiences. I used to go through all my interviews after I did them, and I would point out, man, I shouldn't have done that. I should have done this, blah, 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 blah. So it is a constant process, and people, detectives and cops, think because they can BS well that they're going to do great in an interview room, and that's just not true. So you have to be disciplined in that room, and it is a craft that you have to develop. You may go through all the training. There are schools on interviewing out there all over the place, and they're good schools. And it's only going to be the application of what is learned in those schools is what's going to tell the tale. And I've had guys that I taught in homicide how to interview. My partner and I, we taught the classes, and it was required. And then we would watch them interview, and they would come up with their own crap. It was amazing. And I mean, just like, okay, well, I'm going to take what they told me, but you know what? I got a better idea. And it was horrible to watch. And then we would get the guys, and this applies to patrol officers on up, that would call. The biggest payoff for us, and I know, Scott, you've probably experienced this. You get a phone call from a motivated cop who went out and applied what he was taught. And he calls you up and he says, holy crap, this stuff works. Biggest payoff for us. And somebody said here there's only about 5%. I'm not going to put a percentage on it. But the problem is that I think it is a relatively low number of people that will actually listen to the training, listen to the instruction, apply it, and understand that they have to apply it all the time. Because you're only going to get better with each interview you do. And you may not be a great interviewer, but you'll be a better one.
By the way, the only thought I had through this entire thing, which there's no doubt I'm dysfunctional, is I would love to lock Anderson Cooper in a room with Phil, because in my opinion, guy's a terrible interviewer, can't get questions out, makes $14 million a year, takes him 9 news cycles to get a question out. And I'll tell you what, 99% of the interviewers who are TV news anchors are horrible. And I'll tell you why. It's a very simple thing. They don't listen. They're not listening to the interview subject, so they're already clipping them and asking the next question. I've always, like what Scott just said, kind of really resonated with me, because I am TV news is all about the economy of words. You want to write a story with using the least amount of most effective words. And when you do an interview, you want to get the most information because in the most limited amount of time. So you need quick, good questions. It's not everyone's cup of tea, but a guy that was great at asking short questions and getting good information was Larry King. He was a kind of a simpleton in a way, but he would just ask quick, good questions. And next time you watch Anderson Cooper, watch how long it will take him to get a question out. But I got fired up when Duffy said that, because I still feel like I want to be 10 million times better as an interviewer. And Scott said these guys should go in there and work on that. Scott Duffy, what is you have to get going, right?
I do. And before I forget, kind of tee up if you're going to continue on with this.
I'm not. Because Scott's got to go too, but here's the plan.
Even if it's like a 2 weeks from now.
Oh yeah, we're going to do it 2 weeks.
I just want to key on the one word that hits me. And any time somebody, especially a mother-daughter relationship, a father-son, father-daughter, in other words, a parent and a child. This is going back to where she said, I won't believe, or I won't do something until I have a body. That is, I didn't like that word. Anytime I hear a parent talk about a body as opposed to my child, my Maddie, my daughter, my this and that, she made it so distant from her. Give me a body. And it was just a matter of fact. That tells me there's something, whatever it is, that and it just seemed to go right over the detective's head. That I would have queued up on that and listening to all the or watching all the comments about it, just wouldn't have done it that way. So right. It ultimately comes down to, hey, where was any of the rapport? Even if this was the 4th interview, you don't lose that rapport. And this is from the get-go, there zero rapport.
Final question from Dr. Von Decay, who sent us super, I don't know what it's called, super chat or something. But anyway, thank you, Dr. Von Decay. Phil, F-I-L, by the way. You said to be kinder to Stephan, but harsher with Jenn. How do you know when to do what? And then we'll wrap it up real quick. We're not here next week. The following week, we will do the full remaining hour and change of this, because I find this amazing. And then going forward, we'll do some other famous police interviews
Phil, how do you know when to be easy on one, hard on another? Scott, if you have to really jump, no hard feelings, but I'll wrap it in 2 seconds. Go ahead, Phil.
Well, I don't know that the word kinder and harsher came out of my mouth. I'm not sure where that came from, but it's not a question of being kind. It's a question of knowing your subject that you're talking to and establishing that relationship with them, listening to what they're saying, how they're saying it, and watching their body language and how they're responding to what the dialogue is and what your monologue is. And that will determine when you need to be more firm or when you need to pull back a little bit. So I don't, it's not a question of treating one kinder and the other one harsher. That's not really the question, because each interview is unique.
Right here, pretzels and cornbread. I like our interrogations handled more softly if the parent is fragile, like a Jenn Soto on meds, a little cuckoo for Cocoa Puff. Seems they're overly gentle with Jen, and then we'll say goodbye.
Well, I just think they were. I just found that interview to be vapid. I mean, it wasn't any substance to it. I mean, didn't mean anything. And if it's the fourth one they've done with her, then that's what she's used to. Apparently, nobody's gone in there and just sat down and said, "Hey, Jen, here's how the cow ate the cabbage. Let's talk about it. What did you know, and when did you know it?"
Kissimmee PD, Phil Waters, Scott Duffy, both available for training. I am their agent. I take 15%. I make it 18%. Reach out to me. I'll relay the message. I'll have them flown to Kissimmee once Phil gets back from the Big Island. Any other law enforcement agents who want Phil or Scott, you got to go through me to get them. survivingthesurvivor@gmail.com. I am now retired law enforcement agent. That's what I am. I am not a former agent, but I'm an agent for retired law enforcement. Scott Duffy, your final thoughts here. I don't want to pry. Do we have a date night with the wife tonight? Why are you getting out of Dodge so quickly?
No, just a couple of different work, different kids going different places, and so I am helping out with one of them get to that location.
You're the Uber driver.
I'm Uber tonight.
You're Uber tonight.
How was the
Friday
Weezer?
night.
How did they like the Weezer concert?
Loved it, and I spent the evening in the city at a good old tavern across from the Philly Stadium called Chickies and Pete's, and made some new friends there. I had it was a great time, and then when it was time for them, they texted me, and I shot across the street. Got no traffic nightmares. They enjoyed it. It was good.
Wow. Again, I'm going to be on Coast to Coast AM. A dream come true for me. We're going to be talking Dan Markel, but also Barry and Honey Sherman. He was the 12th richest man in Canada, $3.2 billion. He and his wife were found hanged from their railing in their indoor pool. Each of the floors of their home, by the way, was 4,000 square feet. It took a while. Phil Waters, I hope you have the best time this weekend at your 50th high school reunion. Just give us a quick breakdown of the weekend and your final thoughts here, and a big thank you to your wife for letting us borrow you.
Oh, well, we're getting ready to go over and meet with some old friends at a local pub and talk story. And we're then tonight we're going, like I said, we're going to go to a ranch and enjoy some barbecue and some fellowship there. And then tomorrow we are going to meet with some friends of mine. His mom and his daughter wants to see me. His daughter has gotten big into SDS, so that's going to be kind of fun. And then then tomorrow night will be the banquet, and I'll be doing the acknowledgement of the veterans that served in our graduating class.
Tell the STS people I will send them some swag. You just got to get me their address, and we'll send them over some stuff, even though I haven't really sent Phil or Scott anything, but I'll send it to them. What can I say? It's the best duo, and all of the YouTube, Phil Waters, Scott Duffy, two of the best law enforcement agents you will ever find. I have written a book. People are making fun of me. Available everywhere books are sold. Surviving the Survivor is the name. It is a book that will
in fact change your life. Monday, we're back with the Markells. It is a shortened week, but I think we're going to double up shows next week because we have the Jewish New Year and then the holiest day in the Jewish calendar, the Day of Atonement, the following week. So we're going to work around the Jewish holidays, and we will be around. Follow me on Instagram, Surviving the Survivor, for the latest showtimes. On Twitter, at Podcast SES. And a final comment from Bill Waters.
And thank you. The book is sitting on my kitchen counter in Texas.
Told you they wanted 100. They wanted $190 to send that to Hawaii, and my book's good, but it ain't that good.
No doubt. No doubt.
All right, everybody, have a great weekend. Love you, America. Love you, Houston. Love you, the Big Island. Love you, the Commonwealth of Pennsylvania. Love you, Kissimmee PD. Get to the bottom of this, and if Jenn Soto needs to be arrested her. Justice for Maddie Soto.